What is going on, everybody? This is Codicius back to make another video about dominations. Today's topic for the day is going to be nations. I've put a lot of time and thought into this, and I feel that I'm finally ready to go ahead and make you guys a video on what I think from top to bottom, best to worst, nations are. So I'm going to go, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump into this, let you guys know what I think. Again, this is all opinions, this is not facts, so don't take this to heart. This is just based on my playstyle and how I see the nations being played. So first off, we'll start things off with the Chinese. Chinese get an extra citizen, mercenaries, and defenders. Additional citizens and mercenary camp capacity, +1. Grants bonus defenders at the town center per age, +1. So, unique unit Chuko Nu. Fires twice as fast. For the Chinese, in my opinion, about the Chinese, they're very well-rounded, in my opinion, probably the best well-rounded nation in the entire game, with the exception that I feel that the Chinese Chuko Nu is a little vulnerable to, heavy fire from like the mortar and things. But beyond that, I feel they're very balanced, and the fact that they get an extra defender every time their town center advances. What is there? Let's see. We got stone, bronze, iron, classic, medieval, gunpowder, enlightenment, industrial, and now the global. So that's 7 extra defenders on top of the default that's already come out. That's pretty good. So that is a pro. +1 to mercenary camp capacity is pretty nice too. Because right now in the industrial age where I am at, I actually can get up to 6, I think. But let's look real quick. I think it's 6 or 5. 5. Okay. So considering that they get an extra, then that means that they're going to go up to 6. 6 mercenaries is pretty effective. The additional citizen I feel is good, but not as effective as one might think, because once you get up in these ages where buildings take 4, 5, 6 builders, and shit, some of my buildings are taking 9 to 10 days right now, so that one builder really isn't as effective as it could be. So the Chinese overall, I consider they're effective, but they don't really excel at any one thing. So I guess a con could be that they don't really excel at one thing. They're just kind of very balanced, I guess you could say. But that in its own can be a downfall, because they're not really good, the best at attacking, they're not really the best at defending, they're just overall good. So that's my opinion of the Chinese. Next we'll jump in and we'll talk about the British. The British increase the loot, stolen, daring, and attacks +15%. Whenever this game came out, that was only 5%, so that's huge. Unique unit Longbowman has +1 range and 15% more damage. For the British, I think the British is right now one of, if not the best nation in the game. And being a guy who plays Germans, it's hard not to be biased, but the fact that we're coming up on rifles and, rifles and cannons are becoming more effective and dealing hella more damage, that +1 range is allowing them to, outshoot readouts and cannons, and that's huge. I mean, they're able to go in and wipe out those 2, very important defenses without even getting, as much as even a hit on them. So it's very effective. The 15% loot, though, I think early age to mid-age game, that's really effective. But whenever you get up around, industrial, even enlightenment, global age, I feel that kind of tapers off. I mean, plus 15% really isn't that effective. But early game, the British are great. I mean, those longbowmen are incredible, and they make a hell of a comeback once they hit the industrial age and they get rifles. They're just as good. So yeah, I consider British one of the top tier nations in the game. Next up, we're going to talk about the French. The French unique unit is a Chevalier. Gets +20% more health and +15% more damage. Well, that in itself makes the Chevalier the best tank in the game. Well, actually, I think well, we'll get there. I think the Greek Companion actually outdoes the Chevalier in late game, but early game the Chevalier is second to none. Continuing on, reduces the time it takes to train an army, -20%, and increases maximum ally army size, additional +3 in gunpowder age. So, the increased maximum ally army size is good. I mean, because right now I think I can hold 15 as the Germans. I need to work on, I know I can hold like 18 or 21, but I just haven't really upgraded that very much. Then you're talking somewhere, if you have max ally gate, then you're talking somewhere between 21 and 24 troops. You know, that's somewhere 9, 18, almost 3 cannons that you can request. That's pretty effective. The reduced time is really what we should be looking at here, though, with this nation. That is huge. Plus 20% or minus 20% on the time it takes to train an army. Taking that and actually adding it with, well, my personal and should be everyone's favorite blessing, the training blessing actually says 66. So stacking those together for an hour, every time that you put that thing out, you're talking an 86% decrease in time of how long it takes you to train your armies. That's incredible. I mean, that means that you're roughly, a man takes 35 seconds on infantry, so that means you're roughly pushing an infantry out about every 4 seconds, 4 to 5. That's incredible. The value in that is second to none, and the French are a great nation. The Chevalier, I think, due to the meta and the way the game is playing right now, has kind of fallen off in my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's just my opinion. I don't see too many Chevaliers really going out the door anymore. Next up, and my personal favorite, I mean, obviously I play them, is the Germans. Improved rally and attacking. Unique unit is the Vandal. Deals 20% more damage. Duration of rally is doubled. Reduces the cooldown on rallies minus 5 seconds. Teutonic Fury bonus troops damage after a multiplayer victory. This, to me, is the best raiding army in the game, and people are going to fight me on this when they watch this, and you know they're not going to agree, but here's my case. The fact that I can actually get more rallies off than any other nation, and my dudes already get a default of 20% more damage, comboing that with the 15% of the Teutonic Fury bonus troop damage, you're talking 35% extra damage my men are getting. And I believe that 15% is stackable. Don't quote me on that, but if it is, then that means that if I even get one full victory, whoever returns, they're automatically going back in to battle with 50% more damage. It's huge. Their Warmach, actually, that's what I have right now. They do work, okay? So the Germans are a great nation, in my opinion, and one of, if not the best, and one to take a look at. If you're a very aggressive style player, if you're more of a relaxed style, you know, more of a person who likes to grow through time, and you don't really have the time to be grinding and all that, then the Germans really aren't the army for you, because they don't really have any defensive bonuses to hold on to those resources that you collect while you slowly build your nation. But if you're in this game for the long haul and you want to take advantage of, you know, a great nation and get your resources maxed out as quickly as possible, the Germans are the way to go, in my opinion. Next up, the Greeks. Better architecture, unique unit to companion, plus 10% more health, plus 25% more damage. Refunds part of upgrade cost, 5%. Instantly finish upgrades and general recovery under 15 minutes for free. I actually have some experience with this. I started this game as the Greeks, and the Greeks early game are second to no other nation. In my opinion, they're the best nation for early game play. Mid-game they do okay, but I think the problem with the Greeks, and this is my opinion, is the fact that come late game, that 5 minutes per age, I mean, how many ages do we have right now? I think 6, 7, maybe 8. But even then, you're talking, you know, 5, 25, 30, 35, 40 minutes off of a building. What happens when that building takes 9 days? What is 40 minutes, you know? So I feel that the longer the progression of the game, that kind of tapers off. Along with the 5%, I mean, whenever an upgrade gets up around, you know, 5, 6, 7 million, are you really worrying about that 5%? No. Really, in my opinion, for late game, the only thing the Greek has going for it is the companion. And ever since that horseman nerf that they did a couple months back, the companion really isn't as effective as it used to be. Now, I have seen some videos where it becomes a tank. It's actually used as a tank, and it is a wonderful tank, if not the best tank in the game that can be trained. Like I said, early game, the Greeks are the best nation, in my opinion. Second to none, because they get you into the game real fast, but then there comes that point where they kind of taper off with their little abilities that they have built into them. Next up, the Japanese. Japanese Mighty Defenders. Unique unit, the Bushi. Deals 20% more damage. Town center shoots at invaders. It's always active, so they always have that extra defense. Increase the length of peace treaties plus 25%. The Japanese, in my opinion, are the most controversial nation in the game. One, because they're great for defense. I mean, who doesn't want a town center that actually defends itself? That right there in its own is awesome. Early game, Japanese, wonderful. I mean, hands down, the samurai, the bushi, you know, whatever. I mean, they get in there, they do work early game. Mid game, right around gunpowder age, is where my issue comes to light. The Japanese in the gunpowder age fall off. The reason they fall off is because most other people's infantry are going to become men with guns, and the problem with that is that the Japanese become the elite samurai, and because they become the elite samurai, their range doesn't increase, and it would seem that the Japanese fall off at that point. But actually, if you look at history and time, you have to respect Dominations for actually doing that, because they are a game that hardcore sticks to history. I mean, if you go through and you read on these little characters and the tabs and everything, they did what they were supposed to do. I feel they did the right thing with the Japanese. It's a tough time between gunpowder and enlightenment age, but I mean, that's history, and that's realistic, and I respect them for that, being a man who follows history and has a huge love for history. I can't disrespect them for that. Now, I have seen here lately that the Japanese have made a huge turnaround, because once they get into the Enlightenment and the Industrial Age, their men have guns, and that plus 20% more damage does shine through. One other downfall I do see with the Japanese is the increased length of peace treaties plus 25%. That's great if you're going on vacation or you're going to be out of town or something like that. But beyond that, well, who the hell needs plus 25%? Because if you're playing this game for the long haul, you should be in there doing attacks anyways. Why are you taking your time to let your peace treaty run out? Now, the only time I could see that being effective beyond, like vacations and things, is if you have huge upgrades going, all workers are done, and it's going to be a few days. That would make sense. But beyond that, you need to be getting your ass in there and getting resources anyways and upgrading. So why are you wasting your time hiding behind a peace treaty? Get back in there and play the game. Next up, the Koreans. Right now, a powerhouse in this game, in my opinion. The Koreans' exceptional tradition. Unique unit Hwoarang deals 40% more damage. Refunds loot after being attacked plus 10%. Increased maximum war tactics capacity. That in its own, on top of Hwoarang, in my opinion, makes the Koreans one of the top 3 nations in the game. Because +1 to your tactics, I mean, right now I'm at 5. So that means someone in the same age as me, the Industrial Age, has 6. I can't imagine what it's like to have either 4 sabotages and 2 protects, or 3 protects and 3 sabotages. That in itself is amazing. On top of that, I mean, 40% more damage on your riflemen. I mean, come on. How are the Koreans at all lost? They're an amazing army, and if you're a person who's going to be playing this for the long haul and very active, the Koreans, well, they put in work, okay? And you can put in that work as long as you learn how to use your units correctly. And that can be said about all these nations, but the Koreans, that's real nice, plus 40% damage. But moving on. And last but not least is the Romans. Large armies, unique unit, Legion has 25% more health, increased maximum army size. What is there really to say about the Romans? The Romans in the beginning of the game, shit, they were dogging everybody. I was so terrified whenever I saw that a Roman hit me, because I was like, oh great, here comes an army full of just their infantry and like a healing cart or like a hill spell or something. But beyond that, since the infantry nerf that happened about roughly a year ago, maybe 8 months to a year ago, I feel the Roman infantry has really fallen off, making their special unit kind of obsolete. Now, I don't know how they are in Industrial Age and things. They might be better, and if they are, then feel free to tell me that I'm wrong, because I have not used them in such an age. But from what I've seen, they're not impressive. And it's a damn shame, because Rome has some of the richest history of all the history of the known nations of our race. So it's really sad they kind of shit on them, in my opinion. So that's that. So as a recap of the top 3 nations as of right now, in my opinion, 1 through 3 is going to be number 1, the Koreans. I hate to say it, I'm a Germans player, but that extra tactic is going to carry you through in war. I mean, that is fantastic. I mean, six. I mean, even if you just ran sabotages, 6 sabotages is huge. I mean, like, how is this? How can it be a downfall to have an extra tactic? Not to mention, I mean, your rifle or your harangue, your special unit gets a 40% damage buff. I mean, I hate to say it, but the Koreans are probably the best in the game right now. Next up, in my opinion, is gonna be the Germans. You can argue this about the British. A lot of people say the British would be second or first, but the fact that I have more control over my own army, and the fact that I love, you know, I play a lot of strategy games, and that's my big problem with games like Clash of Clans and things. That's why I don't really play them anymore, is because you cannot control your army. And the fact that I can take 5 seconds off that cooldown, and it means I can get one more, you know, control style move in or one more movement, that is huge. And I mean, every time my dudes survive a battle, they get plus 15% more damage, and they already get a 20% built-in default. So what can you really say about the Germans that are bad? What, they don't have extra defenses? Well, that doesn't really mean anything, because as the Germans, you're a very blitzkrieg style player, so that means you're very active, and you do a lot of attacks. So the amount of loot that you lose when you get a hit is nothing compared to the amount of loot that you're going to gain if you are actively searching and building up your resource to build up that next upgrade. And third in the game, in my opinion, is going to be the British. The only reason that the British lose out to the Greeks, in my opinion, is because the loot stolen during attacks eventually is going to taper off and really not be as productive, I guess you could say, as it is now in the early game. Not to discredit the longbowman. I mean, there's a dude in my clan, his name's Galur. Dude plays the British, like, damn is he good with the British. I get so happy whenever I do a troop request, and out of nowhere I get those yeomans. These dudes are awesome. They put in work. I don't know how many times they've been clutch, but beyond that, man, they just don't have enough bang for their buck, in my opinion, as far as their civilization goes. They're great at looting, but beyond that, what do they really have going on for them? So there you have it. My top 3, again, a recap, are going to be number 1, Koreans, number 2, the Germans, and number 3, the British. I'll go ahead and give you my worst opinion of the nations, in my opinion, but you might not agree, but oh well, these are all opinions, and that, you know, it's just the way it is. So the worst nation in the game, in my opinion right now, is the Romans. I hate to say it, like I said, rich in history and philosophy and things, but terrible in this game. I mean, the army size is cool, but what are you doing whenever your dudes can't survive anything? It doesn't matter if you have 1,000,000 people. What happens if you're 1,000,000 people, because the nerf that was done to infantry about a year ago has made them, I mean, they can get 2 or 3 shotted by a mortar in the industrial age. That doesn't happen to the Germans. The Germans just take it and eat that shit and keep going. So the worst nation, in my opinion, is going to be the Romans, due to the infantry buff that was done and the fact that they're very squishy, and it kind of overshadows that 10% army size. Next up, I know you're not going to like it, but it's the truth in my opinion, is the Greeks. Other than the companion, after early to mid game, what do they have going for them? I mean, 5% ain't nothing. And 40 minutes off the timer, woo, whenever that's like 10 days. I mean, who's looking at that and going, ooh, in 9 days, in X amount of hours, I'll be able to, you know, utilize this built-in ability. But beyond that, that's, well, again, who the hell gives a fuck about 40 minutes? Alright, so, and last but not least is going to be the Chinese. And the reason that I consider the Chinese one of the worst nations in the game is because, well, they don't really excel at anything. They don't really suck at anything, but they don't really have anything great going for them. The mercenary camp capacity is kind of nice, but when I mean, what, the Chukanu fires twice as fast? I would much rather have the Koreans, who do 40% more default damage, than shooting twice as fast. That +1 builder? I just don't know. I don't really see where the Chinese really have an edge anywhere. They're very well balanced, and give it up to Dominations. I mean, they made a damn good balanced nation. I mean, they're very equal, but beyond that, they're not as effective as one might think. But there you have it. Those are my opinions on the nations. Again, you can say whatever you want to say, but these, again, at the end of the day, this is all opinions, and that's That's really what it comes down to. 1 second, sorry about that, collecting here. Beyond the fact that, you know, this game is really... The reason I play this game over any other city builder is the fact that it has uniqueness to it. You know, games like, and I'm not hating on these games have made their money, they've done their thing, so I respect them. Games like Clash of Clans and stuff, hella respectful games, fun to play, but my problem with those type of games is there's really no uniqueness to it. Like, other than city design, like, everybody has the same units, everybody has the same, you know, buildings, same everything, but in this game, everyone, you can fit the type of person you are into your playstyle, into your build, and within that, that's what makes me get back on Dominations every day. It's one of a kind, and I feel that sadly in the market it's a very overlooked game, and I think that people should really get the word out about this game. It's fun, it's enjoyable, and I've had a hell of a blast, and I look very much forward to what Big Huge Games brings out in the future. But I'm going to go ahead and end this video. This is Codicius, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If you want, go ahead, you know, hit that like button, dislike if you didn't like it. I mean, it is all opinions. Hit that subscribe button if you would, and let me know about any ideas that you'd like in future videos. Until next time, this is Codicius. Have a good day. See ya.